Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everybody. Wow, looks like we've got more than 100 people here already. Welcome. This is the Things Fundamentals. And today we're going to cover the fundamentals of LoRaWAN and then give you lots of information to learn as much as possible and to get started building your own IoT solutions. I hope I can see people's comments in here. I'm going to give it a second for some more people to join, and then I'll stick the agenda on the screen and let you know what we're going to do today. It's going to be an exciting day. We have some interviews with some LoRaWAN experts about tips for people who are just getting started. I tried to condense as much LoRaWAN knowledge as possible into a 5-minute video, which I'll share at the beginning, and then we'll put some people in the hot seat about what they would do if they were getting started in LoRaWAN today. All right, let me make sure everything is working like I hope. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't look like I can see comments here, but I will try to, at the end, answer any questions that anybody has. So please, if you have any questions along the way, just drop them in the chat, and then I'll try to figure out how I can see them and get them answered. So, welcome to today's webinar. Like I said, this is a short webinar for learning about LoRaWAN and helping you to get started building your own IoT solutions using LoRaWAN. One sec. Just a second. I have a little technical problem. Okay, so I'll pull up the agenda for the day. Today, we're going to start with the Things Fundamentals in 5 minutes, which is a really, really short adaptation of Johan's video about everything there is to know about LoRaWAN, which took an hour, but yeah, I tried to condense it down into 5 minutes, and then we'll interview Johan about going from 0 to up to 1 million devices, and then I'll do 3 interviews for tips about getting started with LoRaWAN. So, without further ado, let us get to the Things Fundamentals on LoRaWAN in 5 minutes. Here we go. The Things Fundamentals in 5 minutes. 5 minutes is just enough to cover the basics of LoRaWAN, but at the end, I'll also leave you with some resources so you can learn more and get started. I'm Ben. I'm the technical writer at The Things Industries. Let's go. Today, we're going to cover what LoRaWAN is, why it's so great. I'll talk about the physical protocol Lora, and then LoRaWAN, which is the software layer built on top. Lora is short for long range, and LoRaWAN is a low-power wide area network. It's an IoT wireless communication protocol. LoRaWAN is used in disaster prevention, smart agriculture, smart cities, logistics, and lots more. Anywhere there's IoT, there's LoRaWAN. So why is LoRaWAN so great? LoRaWAN has incredibly low power requirements with devices that last 10 years on a single battery. It's long range, covering tens of kilometers with really basic, affordable hardware. It has good indoor penetration. It can be used all over the world without any licensing fees. As part of the protocol, you get geolocation for free. It has a great certification program from the Lora Alliance and a great ecosystem of hardware and software. This is what a LoRaWAN network looks like. You have end devices, say a dog collar, smoke alarm, water meter, that communicate via the Lora wireless modulation technique with gateways. Gateways convert LoRa messages to IP traffic and send it to a network server like the ThingStack, which is what we make. We allow you to see data in the ThingStack and then forward it to your end application. Here's a Lora water meter, which communicates with a gateway, which sends traffic to the thing stack, and then we can forward that to any end application. So let's talk about LoRa. LoRa is the physical wireless transmission technique comparable to other IoT communication technologies like Sigfox. LoRa has greater range than cell technologies like LTE and uses much less power, but it also supports much lower data rates. For IoT though, this is perfect. The theoretical maximum range of a LoRa transmission is 850 kilometers. Every year at the Things conference, we test this by flying balloons with LoRa devices and seeing across how many countries they can communicate. The record from 2020 is 832 kilometers from a device to a gateway, so the physical record is quite close to the theoretical maximum. But of course, that only works up in space. On the ground, you've got interference. So on land, you can expect about 500-meter range indoors, 2 kilometers if you mount a gateway on the top of a house, and say 10 kilometers on top of a skyscraper. LoRaWAN is the MAC layer, which is built on top of LoRa. LoRaWAN specifies 3 types of devices. Class A devices consume the least power because they spend most of their time sleeping. They wake up, communicate, and then listen for a fixed period of time for a message from the network. Class B devices do the same, but also wake up on a regular interval to listen for messages, say once a day. Class C devices consume the most power because they listen continuously. Here's a diagram of how each device class communicates. There are 2 ways to add LoRaWAN devices to a network. Over-the-air activation is the more secure and flexible way, in which a device and the network communicate via join procedure to exchange keys. In some cases, it can be necessary to use the other activation method, activation by personalization, in which those keys are programmed by hand in the device and the network. This has the downfall that the device cannot change networks without being reprogrammed. As I said before, over-the-air activation is preferred because it is more secure and allows changing networks without physical access to the device, but it does use more resources. LoRaWAN implements 2-layer security, where the network and application use separate keys. This means that the network server can't necessarily read application data, and it can just forward encrypted payloads to the end application. LoRaWAN devices are great for IoT because there's a range of device classes to suit every use case. LoRaWAN devices communicate infrequently and with small amounts of data, and in exchange consume very little power and have several-year battery life. This is ideal for IoT. There are LoRaWAN devices for everything. There are water meters, smart plugs, parking sensors, whatever you can think of, somebody makes it. Gateways are affordable hardware you use to build and expand your own network, and they are manufactured for all the different regions of the world. To learn more about LoRaWAN, head over to thethingsnetwork.org/learn, where we have lots of in-depth information about all the technical stuff. If you want to get started with LoRaWAN, we recommend using the ThingStack Community Edition from the Things Network, which is our free-to-use community-based network server that has tens of thousands of gateways already connected all over the world. Once you have a commercial use case, the Things Industries is ready to scale with you. We offer private, SLA-backed LoRaWAN networks for up to millions of devices. Thanks for watching. Hi again, everybody. I just want to say welcome to anybody who just entered. You're watching the Things Fundamentals, which is a short webinar about all about the basics of LoRaWAN and to help you get started building your own IoT solutions using LoRaWAN. And in about 2 minutes, I'm going to invite Johan Stocking on to talk about how to make scalable LoRaWAN solutions. But I just want to take a second to talk about this series of events. And we are doing webinars and conferences all year, leading up to the Things Conference 2022 in September. So if you want to learn more about that, go to thethingsconference.com. And so I guess without further ado, I will now invite Johan Stocking, and I'm going to ask him some questions about how to build sustainable, scalable LoRaWAN solutions. Johan, I hope you're ready. Here we go.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Johan, welcome to the webinar. Yep, I can
Thanks.
see you there. That's great. Okay, I'm going to make you full screen, and then I'm going to grill you about going from 0 to 1 devices, like we like to say, what you need to do if you want to build a solution for 1 to 1,000 devices, and then from 1,000 to 1,000,000 to infinity and beyond. So let me put you on the spotlight. And okay, let's see. There we go. Okay, so yeah, you've got the stage, Johan. How would you go about going from 0 to 1, and then 1 to 1,000, and then 1,000 to 1,000,000?
Yeah, so for 0 to 1, yeah, use the Things Network. That's really what we made the Things Network for. It's free. There's a lot of documentation out there. It supports all LoRaWAN gateways, all end devices, all LoRaWAN versions. It's feature complete. And if you have any questions, then we have this global developer community that is happy to help you. You can connect on our forums, community Slack. And now, fortunately, it's also easier to meet up physically. So you can also find a local community that's in your city or in your area, and you can connect with people to set up gateways and also to learn from them on how to build your first device. And yeah, for building devices, there are actually a lot of LoRaWAN developer kits out there. So if you're already comfortable with Arduino, you can get Arduino-based developer kits. But you can even prototype your first solution with a Raspberry Pi, just to build your first use case and to show to others what your LoRaWAN device would look like. It's actually the hardest part, going from 0 to 1, and then it gets interesting. So if you scale, if you want to build 10 devices or 1,000 devices, then you really want to start automating things. So you don't want to be clicking around in the console, adding devices one by one, or programming devices one by one. So that means that you probably want to learn our APIs. And that's also what we really focus on, to make it easy for developers to provision devices and gateways automatically through our APIs. So you can write scripts, or you can build your own website to provision end devices through our API. And if you're a device maker and you want to produce like 10 to 1,000 devices, this is really where you are soldering for a few days. But if that gets too much, you can also find a contract manufacturer to build the first batch of devices. It's a really interesting and educating process, I can tell you. And then if you have your first batch of 1,000 devices and everything works well, then the big question is, how do you scale that to 1,000,000? And this is also where it gets really interesting, and also where we can help you, because the standard is the same. LoRaWAN is the same, and even the Things stack is the same. So if you're starting on the free the Things stack community edition that you can use with the Things network, then you can switch to the Things stack Cloud or the Things stack Enterprise, which is really designed for large scale deployments. That's in the hundreds of thousands of devices. What we made really helpful for you as a device maker or an application developer is that all these APIs are the same. So if you start on the free tier on the community network, and you upgrade later because your device fleet is expanding to hundreds of thousands of devices, for you as a developer, nothing really changes. So our cloud offering is fully managed, so it's operated by us. We also provide an SLA, and our enterprise offering is something you can deploy yourself on your own servers or in your own cloud. And if you're a device maker and you produce thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of LoRaWAN devices, this is also where you want to start thinking about provisioning your devices securely on a joint server. And that is where the root keys of your devices are. And so we have a new offering for that as well. It's called the Things Joint Server. And the Things Joint Server allows you to provision root keys securely, and also allow your customers to use your devices on any LoRaWAN network. And it doesn't have to be the Things stack. So any LoRaWAN network in the world that supports the LoRaWAN standards can use the joint server. And we have many other features to help you at this scale. And we have many customers that are also scaling in these large number of devices. So we have quite some experience with this as well. Hope that answers your questions, Ben.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, it looks like I found the chat here. I'm not sure if we want to do a live Q&A, Johan, but I guess I'll put us side by side, and I'll talk a little bit about who you are, and then I'll let you go. So Johan is the CTO and co-founder of the Things Industries, and many years ago, Vinke and him founded the Things Network, and so they set up LoRaWAN coverage in Amsterdam, and they were able to cover the entire city with free LoRaWAN network coverage in just a few months. And since then, they've built the network to now hundreds of thousands of developers and tens of thousands of gateways all over the world. And if you go to thethingsnetwork.org, you can start building your own IoT solution using the Things Stack for free. So thanks a lot to Johan for doing that. I think I will let you go rather than grilling you with questions from the chat. What I'm going to do is at the end, I will try to address as many questions as I can. But it looks like we've got about 200 people watching now, and there's questions coming in from every channel, so it's going to be tough to get everybody's. But yeah. So Laura, Johan, if you hang out in the backstage, maybe I'll bring you back at the end, just in case there's any questions that are too complicated.
Sure, okay. I will also keep an eye on the chat, and maybe I'll answer some questions there already.
Yeah, that's great. It looks like we've got Adrian also manning the chat and trying to answer questions. So yeah, thank you, Johan.
Thanks, Ben.
Take care. Okay. So welcome everybody. If you're just joining, this is a webinar on the Things fundamentals, where we're covering all of the basics of LoRaWAN and trying to help you get started building your own LoRaWAN IoT solutions. And this webinar is part of a series of events that we'll be doing all year leading up to the big Things conference in September. So if you go to thethingsconference.com, you can learn all about that, and then maybe we'll see you in Amsterdam for a meeting of all of the LoRaWAN interested IoT developers in the world. So up next, I'm going to interview some of the developers of the Things Stack for a hot tip about what they would do if they were just getting started in LoRaWAN today. We're going to have Hilke, who is the lead stack engineer at the Things Industries. We have Johan. I just interviewed Johan, who is the co-founder of the Things Industries, and then Krishna and Adrian, who also do a lot of really important work on the Things Stack. So, like I said before, if you want to find out more, please head over to thethingsnetwork.org, where we have a whole bunch of information just dedicated to helping people get started with LoRaWAN, and then we also have the Things Stack, which is a free to use, the Things Stack Community Edition, which is a free to use network server where you can piggyback on coverage from that's provided by the public in order to build IoT solutions. Hilke, I hope that you're ready, because I'm going to bring you in and put you in the hot seat in a second. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and you're ready. Okay. Looks like Hilke is ready to be interviewed. So I'll just say a little bit about Hilke. He is the lead stack engineer at the Things Industries, and he's done a lot of the backend work on the Things Stack, which is our LoRaWAN network server, and he also did a lot of work on the previous version of the network server, which the Things network used to run. So he knows all about LoRaWAN and all about the mistakes that it's easy to make when you're getting started. So we are fortunate to have him on. Let me bring him in. And there's Hilke. Okay.
Hi.
So hello, Hilke. Yeah, so the format for today is I'm going to set an egg timer for 2 minutes, and you have 2 minutes to tell us what your hot tip is for somebody who's getting started with LoRaWAN in 2022. Ready?
Sure.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, hit it.
Okay, so yeah, you already mentioned in the beginning the difference between the different activation modes of LoRaWAN. You have OTAA and ABP, And my tip for people who start with building LoRaWAN devices is to use OTAA. So that allows you to join a network, but later also allows you to join a different network. And that is very important when you want to scale. So you can start with the ThinkStack Community Edition, and then when you want to scale, you can rejoin a different network. That can be the ThinkStack Cloud or your self-hosted ThinkStack Enterprise. And that is only possible if you use OTAA. Yeah, so that would be my first tip. Use that. Then the second tip that I would like to give you is to make sure that you can tell your end device with a downlink message to go into that join mode. So to be able to reset your device remotely without having to access your device is going to save you a lot of time if you want to, like I said, change from the ThinkStack Community Edition to your the ThinkStack Enterprise or the ThinkStack Cloud and really scale. So that would be my tip for these beginners that want to scale. Was that 2 minutes?
Oof, I was still muted. That was 2 minutes. Thank you so much for the forward-thinking tip. It is really important to think about how you're going to be able to scale solutions in the future. And I know that that we have a lot of clients who have needed to switch LoRaWAN networks and then have had a big pain because they used ABP in a lot of their devices. And so without physical access to the devices, it's really difficult to then switch them to another network server. So that was Hilke's tip, is to use over-the-air activation, because then you can provision the devices on any network without physical access to them, and that makes it easy to manage them in the future. So thanks, Hilke. I'll let you go now, and then we've got some more interviews coming up. Thanks. See ya. All right. So welcome everybody who is just joining. This is the Things Fundamentals, where we're trying to present as much about the basics of LoRaWAN as we can in a short amount of time, and to give people who are just getting started with LoRaWAN some tips. Like I said, we're doing events all year leading up to the Things Conference 2022 in Amsterdam. So if you're interested in that, go to thethingsconference.com and check it out. What else? If you want to know more about LoRaWAN, we've got courses, and we have a whole section of thethingsnetwork.org, which is dedicated to all of the information that you could possibly want to know about LoRaWAN. So head over to thethingsnetwork.org/learn, and that's where all of our information-based pages are. Up next, we have an interview with Krishna. I'm going to bring Krishna in first. So Krishna is a infrastructure engineer at the Things Industries, and he used to do a lot of ops work. So I know he was the guy who used to get a call in the middle of the night when things broke, and so I think he's learned a lot about how to make things work in the heat, in the fire, in the battle. And so I'm going to bring him on to give us some tips and to tell us in 2 minutes what his 2022 tip is for somebody who's just getting started in LoRaWAN. So let's say hello to Krishna here. Hey, Krishna.
Hey, Ben.
Cool, I can hear you. And it looks like we've got about 200 people on various channels who are listening in for your hot tip about how to do LoRaWAN if you're just getting started in 2022. Krishna is our infrastructure engineer at the Things Industries, and I'm going to start the timer in 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Amazing. So my tip would be piggybacking on what Hilke said before is in a LoRaWAN network, and devices are the most important things, but your gateways, the gateways that are used in LoRaWAN are sort of the bridge between the devices and the network. So my hot tip would be to use the LoRa Basic Station protocol for your gateways, or gateways that support the LoRa Basic Station protocol. This means that they can be really easily configured. You can configure them remotely from the server side without having physical access to the gateway. And if there's, from my past ops experience, it's always good to have a remote access to your gateway so you can fetch logs from it. So the LoRa Basic Station protocol by default supports all of those features. And you can also remotely change the radio configuration and certain other parameters of the gateway. And if you want to move your gateway from one deployment to another, it's also a server-side message instead of having to go directly to the gateway and changing it. So if either you're a beginner or you're managing a big fleet of gateways, having to be able to directly access the gateway from a server and not having to go to a physical location is a huge bonus. And a lot of our customers had trouble with that initially. So our biggest recommendation is you can get a gateway. You can look at the thingsnetwork.org. We have a web shop. And for example, the Things Indoor Gateway, which is a small 8-channel LoRaWAN gateway, is about $65. It's quite cheap. So my big tip would be use LoRa Basic Station gateways for your deployments.
Okay. Yeah, so kind of similar to what Hilke said, one of the keys to scalability is making sure that you don't have to trek out to devices in order to do maintenance in the future. And LoRa Basic Station is an effort by Semtech, I believe, to basically make gateways more remote accessible and to improve the security and a lot of other things about the way that gateways communicate with the network server. So Krishna's tip for 2022 as a LoRaWAN beginner is use LoRa Basic Station from the beginning. And as a technical writer and somebody who interfaces a lot with people who are setting up stuff, I can also second that very strongly. Using LoRa Basic Station makes a lot of diagnostic things about building LoRaWAN networks easier. So thanks, Krishna. I'm going to let you go, and then we'll continue with the hot seat interviews for LoRaWAN tips. Thanks a lot. Krishna is our infrastructure engineer at the Things Industries, and he's been around a long time, so he knows a lot about how to do LoRaWAN well, and also he has been behind the scenes in a lot of the great and a lot of the not so great things that have happened along the way. So he's picked up a lot of knowledge, and I want to say a big thanks for his 2 minutes and his tip about how to do LoRaWAN in 2022. We've got one more interview coming up with Adrian, who is another backend engineer, and I have to say a last hello to everybody who is just joining. Thanks for joining the Things Fundament, where we're trying to help everybody understand as much about LoRaWAN as possible in a short time. If you want to learn more, please head over to the thingsnetwork.org, and on the Learn section there, we've got lots and lots of information which you can follow along at your own speed in order to get yourself set up with, in order to learn as much as you can about LoRaWAN. And then we also have the ThingStack Community Edition, which will allow you to actually build a IoT solution using LoRaWAN for free. And we warmly invite everybody to the Things Conference in September. Head over to thingsconference.com if you want to learn about that. It's a great big celebration in September, all about LoRaWAN. Our last interview is with Adrian, who is a stack engineer at the Things Industries. And Adrian works a lot with the backend components that interface with other parts of the internet. So he's an expert in APIs and integrations. Adrian, I'm going to bring you in, and then we're going to put you in the hot seat to ask you about how you would do IoT, how you would do a LoRaWAN solution in 2022.
Yeah.
Let's see. Put your name here.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, this is Adrian. I can hear you, so I think everybody else can as well. So
Perfect.
Adrian, what's your 2022 tip for somebody getting started in LoRaWAN?
I would say that you should, from the beginning of your solution, think about the scale. So there is this very simple principle that I like to bring up. There is nothing more permanent than a temporary solution. So while designing your scalable solution, you should do it from the start. And my tip about that is that you should use stateless integrations. So basically, as you add more and more devices, more and more traffic, you need to be able to scale your solution really easily. And our main solution for this is to use what's called webhooks. In webhooks, we push the data towards your service. And the beautiful thing about webhooks is that you can very easily scale them. You can have load balancers, you can have multiple instances of your own service running in parallel. And this allows you to massively scale with ease. You don't really have to think too much about connections and everything. Everything is handled by the HTTP protocol for you. When you start a solution, you have a small, you want to see some data, you want to quickly get a script running, you want to get the grip of how the API works. And that one, when it comes to the thing stack, can be done, for example, via MQTT. In MQTT, you connect to the server and the server starts giving you data. The problem with this is that it scales quite badly because you would need to maintain those connections. If you're not connected, you're not receiving any data. It becomes really complicated to actually scale this as the volume grows. Whereas if you are to use HTTP integration, so webhooks, then you can actually, we push the data towards you and you can balance it and ensure that you have high availability built in by design. This is really important as you go to a higher number of end devices. And it's something that if you do from the start, you don't have to change later almost at all. It's something that you basically get a good decision for free if you start with this. That would be my my hot tip.
Awesome. Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, so like I said, Adrian is a stack engineer at the Things Industries and has done a lot of the backend work on the Things stack. And his tip is to use webhooks and stateless integrations in order to make your solution more scalable, right? So we heard a lot today about thinking about the future scalability of your project from the beginning, because I think that will save you a lot of time and headaches in the future. Thanks, Adrian. I'll let you go, and then I think I'll try to address questions from the chat if I can. I see that Hilke is still in the backstage. I lost Johan. I was going to bring him back on in order to help me answer questions, but I'll see what I can do by myself. Yeah. So our 3 tips today were. Hilke suggested using over-the-air activation so that you can provision devices from the network server side without actually physically accessing the devices. And he recommends against using activation by personalization and for using over-the-air activation when you're provisioning devices. Krishna gave us a tip to use Lora Basic Station, which allows you to securely and scalably connect to gateways. And Adrian suggested using webhooks for integrating with your end application in order to make scalable, in order to send data scalably and make your solution more scalable in the long run. Historically, a lot of people, I think, used MQTT as the transport protocol for sending data from the network server to their end application. And Adrian recommends against that. So definitely look into using webhooks for to make stateless IoT solutions. Now, I have found the chat here, and I am sure that I'm not going to be able to answer a lot of these questions. We've got about 200 people viewing now, but thankfully Krishna, it looks like, is taking care of some questions in the chat, and I think I saw Johan in the chat there. But now I am actively monitoring the chat, so if anybody asks me any easy questions now, I think I'll try to answer them. Let's see what we have for questions. Okay. Somebody asked about what good devices are for starting. And I will make a shameless plug for the generic node, which is the Things Industries sort of LoRaWAN boilerplate product. I think generic node what is the website for the generic node? Let me see. Yeah, genericnode.com. You can find all of the information about that, and it's designed also to help you scaffold your LoRaWAN device needs. But otherwise, we also have the LoRaWAN device repo, where you can see basically all of the a very, very, very big number of devices in the LoRaWAN network, the LoRaWAN ecosystem, and we also have the device repository integrated with the things stack. So if you go and you look at the things network device repository, any device that you see in that repository, you can add in the things stack. You can provision with basically one click. We've collaborated with all of those manufacturers in order to make it really, really easy to add devices from the device repo. And you basically get all of the technical information about those devices automatically in the things stack when you go to add the device. And so that was one big project this year in order to make one of the most difficult parts of using LoRaWAN simpler. Because there have been quite a few changes to the LoRaWAN specification through the years, and so sometimes it was difficult to figure out which LoRaWAN spec a device complied to, and so the device repo makes all of that easier. Uh-oh, I hope I didn't freeze here. What's next? Questions. Oh, Adrian's name's still on the screen. Okay, and in the chat, what do we have? Okay, can I put a LoRa device in a lorry that will cross Europe and be sure I will have bidirectional communication with it almost all the time? J.S. Pitals asked this, and that is also a good opportunity to talk about LoRa, talk about roaming with LoRa. We have this year, I think, we built support for what's called Packet Broker into the things stack. And Packet Broker supports roaming between LoRaWAN networks. Most enterprise-grade LoRaWAN networks are they're local area networks, and Packet Broker is designed to allow you to share the coverage from your network with other LoRaWAN networks. The Things Network by default is connected, or the Things Stack Community Edition is by default connected to Packet Broker, and so any coverage from anywhere that the Things Network has coverage is shared through Packet Broker. And so, for example, if you are the Things Stack Cloud customer, you get to benefit from all of the coverage of the Things Network, and there's tens of thousands of gateways all over the world. So if you put say, to answer your question, if you put a LoRa device in a lorry that was traveling across Europe and it was on the Things Network, there's a very, very good chance that you would have coverage for a lot of that journey. And with the Packet Broker, it's also possible to share that coverage with any other LoRaWAN network. So head over to packetbroker.com for more information about how that works, and all the Things Stack deployments natively support Packet Broker. So it's really easy to get coverage from other LoRaWAN networks, and also to choose if you would like to share the coverage from your network with other networks. Let's see, questions. Oh, thanks for posting the Packet Broker URL. Okay, Luis asked if there's any Arduino library to send and receive messages. There definitely is. I'm not sure what the library is called, but I know if you Google around, you'll find Arduino libraries that support LoRaWAN. Let's see, we make the Things Uno, and there's a Arduino library for that, which makes it really easy to do over-the-air ABP activation, and to do some basic LoRaWAN stuff on the Arduino with that. But I imagine that Arduino themselves also support the LoRaWAN ecosystem pretty well, and I know that they do a lot of demonstrations showcasing the LoRaWAN features on the Arduino. Sebastian Romero has done quite a few workshops at our conferences about how to build LoRaWAN solutions using Arduino. So if you search for Sebastian Romero, Arduino, LoRaWAN, I'm sure a lot of those videos will come up, and you can just follow along he has really, really, really nice, easy to follow guides for building LoRaWAN solutions using Arduino. What else? We still have Adrian and Hilke in the backstage. So if I get any difficult questions that I can't answer, I'll bring them back on in order to help me out. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Okay. Okay, so somebody asked about Class C devices. So yeah, LoRaWAN has 3 device classes which are kind of intended to cater to different use cases. So Class A LoRaWAN devices, what they do is they wake up, they sleep most of the time, and then they wake up, send a message, and then they have a fixed period of time after sending this message during which they wait for a message from the network. And that makes them incredibly power efficient. So you have Class A LoRaWAN devices that last years and years and years on batteries, and some energy harvesting Class A solutions which can basically live until the device falls apart. I know that with the generic node, we were able to power that with solar. I think even indoors using a solar panel from Voltaic Systems. And the generic node is basically will run perpetually on solar indoors because it's so power efficient. And then Class B devices also do what Class A devices do. They wake up periodically and they send a message, and then they listen after they sent the message. But Class B devices add the functionality that they also periodically wake up and listen for a message from the network server. And the advantage there is that then you have a predictable amount of time between, you can basically predict how long you're going to need to wait to communicate with that device. Whereas with a Class A device, there's no way to communicate with it except after it communicates. All communication is initiated by the Class A device, and Class B adds this periodic wake up and listen. And then Class C is the least power efficient because Class C devices are continuously listening for messages from the network. So Class C devices are typically mains powered because it's not particularly efficient to constantly have a radio listening for messages from the network server. But LoRaWAN does support this, and the Thing Stack also supports Class C devices. So I hope that answers the question about what Class C devices are. And if there's anything that I haven't answered, please head over to thethingsnetwork.org/learn, where we have all types of information about LoRaWAN. Okay, any more fun questions from the chat? Let's see. Okay, is the Things Network available over satellites as well? I'm not sure. I know Lacuna Space has done work with satellite LoRaWAN coverage, but you'll have to do some more investigation yourself. Definitely look up Lacuna Space LoRaWAN. Do we have gateways for 2.4 gigahertz LoRaWAN? I don't know what the ecosystem is like for 2.4 gigahertz LoRaWAN, but maybe Hilke does, maybe Adrian does. Nope, they're telling me no. Okay, I found a coverage map on the Things Network, which shows the location of TTN gateways. So I may assume a few kilometers of coverage for a roaming device around each of these gateways, correct? Yes, that sounds about right. I think usually gateways mounted above a home, for example, will give you about 2 kilometer radius of coverage. Indoor, it's not so far, it's like 500 meters. But JP Myers, who is the author of TTN Mapper, has also done some cool workshops about how you can figure out exactly how far the gateways will communicate. So I think if you go to our YouTube, if you go to the Things Network YouTube, you can find JP Meyer's workshop about how to figure out exactly how far those gateways can communicate, and also to draw physical maps of which gateways you're communicating with based on where you are. So usually in the city, you're communicating with several gateways at once, and maybe out in more rural areas, the coverage is more limited. Yeah, in cities, you should get a few kilometers of coverage from each of the gateways. And the nice thing about having coverage from more than one gateway is that then you can also, you get geolocation for free. So via triangulation, the LoRaWAN protocol allows for a geolocation stamping of LoRaWAN messages. You can figure out where your device is based on which gateways it's communicating with. That also reminds me that the generic node, I believe, the tracker edition is built on the LR1110, which is a chip from Semtech, which has a really, really power and clever GPS built in. So like I said, if you are communicating, if a LoRaWAN device is communicating with, you get location stamping for free. But the LR1110 has that doesn't so the really intense part of figuring out where you are with GPS is I think doing calculations based on an almanac that's stored in the device, and it's actually it's possible to get a location that you can't. Oh, how do I describe this? So Semtech offers a service, a cloud-based service, in which the LR1110 sends the record of the satellites that it's communicating with, and then that location calculation is done in the cloud. So it's really, really power efficient because the device doesn't have to use any resources figuring out where it actually is. It just sends a record of which satellites it's able to communicate with, and then that location service is done in the cloud. So I think if you check out Semtech's Lora cloud service, that is quite a cool implementation of GPS geolocation, but in a very, very power efficient way. Let's see. Okay, can we build our own private network on a local server? I actually made a video about installing the Things Stack open source on your own hardware. But if you go to our documentation, which is at the Things Stack, is at the thingsindustries.com/docs, there is a section in Getting Started about installing the Things Stack, and that has all the instructions that you need for installing the Things Stack open source for free on your own hardware. Let's see. Okay, yeah, quite another question about LoRaWAN roaming. So definitely check out packetbroker.net if you're looking for a LoRaWAN roaming solution and you want to either share coverage from your own LoRaWAN network or benefit from coverage from other networks. Hello from Morocco. It looks like we've got viewers from all over the world. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And time is kind of wrapping up, so I just want to take one more opportunity to say thanks everybody for tuning in to the Things Fundamentals. And yeah, I hope that we were able to give you a little bit of information about how LoRaWAN works and point you in the right direction to get started with LoRaWAN and start building your own solutions. We are doing these webinars as a series of events leading up to the Things conference. I'll put a link to that below. And that is in September in Amsterdam, where we all get together in order to talk about digital transformation this year. So about all of the ways that LoRaWAN data is ending up in business processes and actually directly improving people's lives. And so our focus this year in the Things conference is especially on, for example, how LoRaWAN data is filling forms out in business processes, is really impacting day-to-day business decisions. Because that's what we see as the future of IoT, is when people directly are benefiting from the data that is coming from all of these devices. Go to thethingsconference.com and you can see all about what is going to happen at the Things conference. You can buy tickets and there's lots more information up there. So yeah, thethingsconference.com, that is the place. See if I see any more easy questions in the chat. Hopefully a lot of people, even if I didn't get to your questions, you got them answered. I know we had some people manning the chat, but you can always reach out to us. If you go to thethingsindustries.com, we've got our contact information there. So if you want to know more about LoRaWAN, or if you're interested in building, say, a commercial solution, please reach out to us. And we have lots and lots of information online about how you can learn more about LoRaWAN. So we have the Things Network YouTube, where we've got loads of instructional videos, lots of workshops, lots of hands-on stuff for building IoT LoRaWAN solutions. We have the thingsnetwork.org/learn, where there's loads and loads of really simple, easy to follow instructions and information about how LoRaWAN works. We have the Things certification. So if you're on the thingsnetwork.org/learn and you want to test your knowledge, you can take a test, and then you can show everybody how much you've learned about LoRaWAN. That's a really cool program that we implemented this year, I believe, or early last year. Yeah, so I'm not seeing any more questions at the bottom of the chat here. I just want to say a big thank you to everybody for tuning in to the Things Fundamentals on LoRaWAN. Yeah, please follow up with any questions that you have. The thingsindustries.com, thingsnetwork.org. We should be reachable at all of those channels. And I think that's it. Thanks a lot. And we will see you soon at the next webinar. Thanks, everybody. Bye.